Ladies and gentlemen, dear guests, it's my honor to be here and walk you through the Georgian experience of the oversight over defense and security sector, especially according to the new legislative changes that we've introduced in the form of new constitution and in the form of new rules of procedure. So, as you all know, in every legislature, and Georgia is not an exception, that parliaments do play a very crucial role in ensuring that security policies and practices are effective, transparent, and accountable to the wider population. Defense, security, and intelligence institutions, they have to meet, first of all, their functional demands, such as ensuring law and order, protecting the national interests, and, of course, equally, they have to meet legal standards, and they have to conduct their activities in the fullest manner where human rights are protected and guaranteed. So we do all acknowledge that they are not just spending departments and ministries, they are a principal possessor of weapons and armaments, they are the ones that possess monopoly to use force, and only when subject to proper democratic oversight and subject to democratic accountability can they make right decisions under proper democratic guidance. However, we have to acknowledge that unless we elected representatives have political will and commitment to scrutinize the government and hold it to account, no amount of constitutional authority, legal powers, or resources will make oversight and control effective. So having commitment and political will, of course, is of the utmost importance. Of course, the key advantage of the parliamentary oversight is that the legislators are a bridge to the public. They are well positioned to ascertain their views, see to them that they are reflected in the respective laws and regulations. So, since the change of government in Georgia in 2012, of course, the parliament and our political force have placed democratic control of the security sector and security sector reform, oversight and control high on our political and legislative agenda. And our political vision was that security debate should be, to the extent possible, transparent and would cease to be the property and monopoly of the few. So we have started to make practical use of the oversight mechanisms that existed at that time, and also started to make further improvements in the existing legislation. We introduced nearly over 40 changes that amended different laws and significantly improved the oversight mechanisms. However, we do fully acknowledge that the challenges in the field remained manifested in the shortfalls in the national legislation and the absence of the oversight traditions. So, as you all know, the new Constitution of Georgia turned the country into a full-fledged parliamentary democracy that conditioned changes in respective legislation and, importantly, the new rules of procedure. So today, we have quite broad oversight mechanisms that are spelled out in the Constitution, in the national legislation, of course, in the new rules of procedure, and the oversight is conducted on 3 operational levels. This is the level of the plenary, the committee levels, and the level of individual MPs. When we talk about defense and security oversight, of course, the role of the Defense and Security Committee is very important here. And within the committee, we have a so-called group of trust, which is a select group of parliamentarians of 5 MPs. It's something similar, not fully, but to a certain extent similar to the United States Gang of 8, which has more access to classified information as any other members present at the legislature. So as to the general oversight functions, according to the introduced changes, the Prime Minister has to personally appear before the Parliament, has to present his annual report, and upon request of the legislature, he shall also submit annual reports concerning implementation of different parts of the government program. And then, of course, the appearance of the Prime Minister before the Parliament is followed by political debates. Another important feature that we've introduced is the parliamentary interpellation, which is filing interpellations by 7 members instead of 10 MPs, which means that this is a low quorum and a better possibility to make the executive more accountable and conforming the information needs of the Parliament. Of course, each minister shall be obligated to appear before the plenary at least once a year, which is an important tool called minister hours. And many of you do know that we have been holding quite actively since the adoption of the new rules of procedure ministers' hours at the Parliament of Georgia, and several ministers did appear before the Parliament, and their appearances have been followed by very active and critical political debates. Another important feature I'd like to say is that the Parliament has a capability to summon the members of the government to the plenary session as well as to the committees. Summoning to the committee now is possible with the requirement of the faction or with 1/4 of the committee members, which means that members of the government and those officials which were appointed by the Parliament can be summoned with less quorum and can be summoned by the opposition. Parliamentary committees are also able to conduct thematic inquiries and to draw respective recommendations in those areas. Another very important tool that we have at our disposal is an annual action plan, which each committee has to adopt in the beginning of every year. And it means that the activities that we conduct, be it the legislative activities or the oversight activities, shall be spelled out in respective plans of those committees. It also opens the committee work and the parliamentary work open for public scrutiny and enables the population to assess the effectiveness of their elected representatives. However, we do fully acknowledge, and this is how it happens in every civilized democracy worldwide, that significant part of the oversight will still be event-driven. Effective parliamentary involvement in defense and security also is best achieved with respective supportive elements, and we have very close cooperation with the civil society organizations so that we do not fully rely and accept automatically the government submissions. And here we have quite narrow cooperation, so we also have the possibility to hear the alternative opinion. And Defense and Security Committee has close cooperation. We also have agreement with civil society organizations. They are welcome at the committee hearings, and this is the common practice that they are present whenever the format enables us to do so, whenever it's a public hearing. Defense and Security Committee has all the above mentioned powers that I have mentioned already. However, when it comes to the full-fledged oversight over defense and security, it should be noted that according to the mandate of those institutions and secretive nature of their activities, and to oversee them more effectively, we need access to the classified information, which is a lifeblood for the oversight. And here the mandate of the trust group is very important. Prior to introduction of legislative changes, the mandate of the trust group was very limited, and it could oversee only financial aspects of the classified activities. However, with the introduction of the changes, the mandate of the trust group has widened, and now it can embrace and oversee wide range of classified activities of intelligence, security, and defense institutions, including but not limited to policy, administration, secret operations, collection activities, information sharing agreements, policies and procedures, and other activities as well. Importantly, when we talk about temporal dimension of the oversight, which is a very important element, we generally conduct ex post oversight. So that's the key principle that we work. However, the rules of procedure also enables us to conduct the oversight of ongoing activities if, in the judgment of respective institutions and in our judgment, this does not harm the national security interests. So this form of oversight is also available in our arsenal of the tools that we have. The rules of procedure also incorporates the mechanisms which obligates the executive branches to submit all necessary information to fulfill, so that the trust group can fulfill their obligations in an unhindered manner. If an access to a certain information is denied, respective agencies have to submit written explanation for such a denial. Along with the annual reports that defense and security institutions submit to respective committees and to the plenary, now those institutions have to submit on an annual basis the classified version of the reports to the trust group. And whenever trust group deems necessary, it can summon heads of those institutions or persons authorized thereby to the trust group meetings with the purpose of hearing ad hoc reports or with briefings on different issues pertaining to their competence. Also, another important feature that we've introduced is that the Prime Minister, the government of Georgia, heads of respective institutions have to proactively disclose to the Defense and Security Committee, to the Trust Group, in particular, the classified legal acts that govern the tasks and determine the structure of the activities of those agencies, and that in turn enables us to assess conformity of those legal acts against the national legislation, as well as performance of those agencies with respect to those legal acts and the national legislation in general. As you all know, Defense and Security Committee also closely oversees the activities of the surveillance agency, and the Defense and Security Committee has the mandate to receive the reports from that particular agency, as well as to pay visits to the premises of that institution and to conduct oversight on the ground. Prior to the changes, only one member of Defense and Security Committee had that authority, but after changes were introduced, several members can be dispatched to those institutions with the purpose to conduct oversight on the ground. And when we talk about the visits to the premises, it's also a very important tool that the members of the trust group can pay visits with the consent of the trust group chairman to defense institutions, to intelligence institutions, and to security agencies, and to ask for documents and receive oral briefings in the areas they are interested in. Importantly, the changes have also widened the mandate of the trust group, and now the procurements, the classified procurements by all defense and security institutions have to be reported to the trust group proactively if they are in excess of 4 million Georgian lari when we talk about infrastructure activities, infrastructure works, and over 2 million GEL local currency when we talk about procurement of goods and services. So this has been the basic oversight tools that we have incorporated in the new rules of procedure, and we have equipped the trust group with, and we have also found that they have been quite effectively working so far in practice, because we've been holding those institutions firmly accountable. They have been attending hearings, they have been reporting at the plenary sessions. As you all know, we have received the report from the State Security Service first to the Defense and Security Committee and other committees, as well as to the plenary session. Plus, we have started to implement our oversight visits on the ground. We visited, for example, to bring you one clear example, the infrastructure and the facilities of the Coast Guard in Western Georgia, Joint Maritime Operations Center, and the Maritime Base in Poti, where we had the opportunity to meet the representatives of those agencies to check the equipment, the infrastructure, to get aware of working conditions they have, and all those activities and the similar activities. So those oversight visits will continue in the future as well on the very regular basis. Another important example I also want to name is that the members of the Parliament, of the Defense and Security Committee, have been addressing respective institutions with parliamentary questions, and of course receiving the answer to those questions. Since the adoption of the new rules of procedure, there have been about 60 questions filed to those agencies. The answers were provided to all of them unless they contained personal information or something that was very highly sensitive. We also receive, as stated above, the information, proactive information about procurements to be planned by defense and security institutions, and since the adoption of the new rules of procedure, we have been informed 11 times by different institutions on procurements to be made by those institutions. So these are the changes that we've introduced. These are just few examples how those changes are working in practice. These are the levels of accountability and oversight Georgia's defense and security sector has never seen before. Time and again, I have said it, and I will still want to reiterate that the next period, I would say the remaining term of the 9th legislature, will be a period where the new rules of procedure and its effectiveness will be put to the test. We will closely evaluate, monitor, and observe whether provisions incorporated in the new legislation are as effective in practice as perfect they look on the paper. And we will, based on the gaps revealed on the assessments made, we will continue their further adaptation and further perfection. So this have been short introduction of the changes that we made in Georgia, the way they work, and I'll be happy to answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Irakli.